Good evening, everybody. Joe Cool here. Wanted to talk a little bit about Ukraine and the nice interaction that just took place not that long ago. So, you know, a lot of people have been coming down pretty hard on Zelensky on the conservative side, and those people on the liberal side have been coming down on President Trump and Vance. So, what is this all about? Well, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye here. First of all, these geopolitical uh, interactions are very complicated, much more complicated than we can go into in a live stream. Unless, of course, you're in this live stream for a couple hours. But basically, this little interaction that was supposed to take place had a beginning. And the beginning was long before they assembled into that room to talk about uh, what was going on. The media said, well, he was just supposed to come in there and sign, and then he was going to leave. And that meaning President Zelensky. The only problem is he had a couple of meetings before he went in there. And this is kind of all over the place. You can look these things up. And he had a meeting with a couple of Democrats. And unfortunately, we think that some of the Democrats were telling him that the things that he were to do, what he should have done when he went into that meeting. And he probably talked about that and did exactly what they told him he should do. And that was go in there, challenge Trump's authority, and stick your nose in there where it kind of doesn't belong, instead of just going in and signing the deal and then having the discussion behind closed doors. I also think it was a setup because the media in this country, and it doesn't really matter which side of the media you listen to, because all sides were involved in this, but the media seemed to want to set him up. And the media's been doing this ever since Trump took office in the beginning of January, middle of January. And what they've been trying to do is they're trying to throw a wedge between Elon Musk and the president. They're trying to throw a wedge between Vladimir Zelensky and the president. They're trying to throw a monkey wrench in between everything that's going on because they don't want Trump to have the win. Now, those are my friends out there who like to stalk me and want to give me a little bit of an argument on that. I defy you to show me anywhere where any of the people that you support are in support of any of the things that's going to make America better. Okay. I'd also defy you to come back and you can email me, text me, uh, respond over on YouTube, send me a message on Facebook, however you like. But I would like to see you guys talk about the truth of what the last administration was like and the bag of crap that was left for our president and the people of the United States, me being one of them, because I'm a proud citizen of this country. And I don't appreciate the fact that somebody lies to get into office. No, we're not talking about Trump. We're talking about Biden. We're talking about the media. We're talking about Kamala Harris. And these people all lied to get into office. And then they proceeded to tear the country apart over the last 4 years. And one of the remnants of that tearing that apart was this war that broke out in Ukraine. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I believe it was the summer of 2016 when Vladimir Putin got up there and said, I'm going to take over the old Soviet countries, take them back again. And that speech that he gave was about 45 or 55 minutes long, is still out there on the internet. You can go hear it. So go listen to it. He told you what he was going to do. And what did our previous president do? The previous president did absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, he kind of baited him by saying, go ahead, I dare you. Go ahead. Take, as long as you just do a small incursion, it'll be okay. A small incursion. Well, that's what he did. Now, what he didn't expect was that Zelensky and his people were going to fight for their freedoms. Because to be honest with you, between Russia and Ukraine, the Ukrainians were the free people and the Russian people were not. Okay. Go against Putin and don't live more than one story off the ground because you'll find yourself jumping out a window. At least that's how the media puts it. This person disagreed with Putin and all of a sudden they jumped out a window. Yeah, well, I'm definitely not going to Russia and say anything bad about Putin. So, especially if I'm going to stay in a hotel more than 2 stories. But they didn't expect what was going to come next, and that was that he was going to defend Zelensky. That is, defend his people, defend his country, and put the Russian military kind of to shame. And he did. And luckily, before Trump left office in his first time, he gave them Javelin missiles, and they were able to help destroy some of those tanks. And, of course, he did make headway, Putin, into the country. They were able to take over some areas. But one of the things that he did was he targeted civilian areas. He used the old World War II tactics, and the World War II tactics are very simple: go in and blow up civilians, kill civilian people, and break the will of the people in their country. And it may not have been all his forces that were doing it, but it was part of the Wagner group that was out there helping to do some of that too. And because remember, he had mercenaries that were fighting for him. But what did Zelensky do? He decimated Russia's troops. Almost 40% of his fighting force was gone. He took out a whole bunch of tanks, so much so that it was a significant number, and he took out a huge portion of the Russian Air Force. Okay. Now he's never going to win this war. The war's never going to be won. But what helped spur it on and what helped keeping it going? Well, we'll give you some defensive weapons. That was, as I affectionately refer to him, as Joe Bite Me. And Joe Bite Me gave him some defensive weapons. And then after 3 years being in this conflict, he says, well, we'll give you a couple of offensive weapons, but we'll give you billions and billions and billions of dollars. Why do you think he gave him billions and billions of dollars? Because they knew that they could get that money to people that would use it for whatever they wanted for. Okay. And that's what this part of this is about. It's part of this is about the corruption that they were able to bring back to the surface because when President Trump was in there the first time, he was trying to help Ukraine rid the country of corruption. And then, of course, we know there was a 4 year pause in President Trump's term where the corruption went rampant again. Okay. So what happened? Well, they lifted the sanctions on Russia. They lifted the sanctions on their oil and gas production, and they started selling, and they started to become a wealthy nation again. Okay, the Trump sanctions were hurting the Russians. All right, and this is all information you guys can look up. Those people who have the integrity to look up and want to hear the truth and not just listen to some media garbage out there, you'll find the truth is out there. And you may not like the truth, but the truth is that our country was helping to support both sides of the war for the military industrial complex to just keep on going. Okay. And it just kept on going. They say war is very profitable, not profitable for me, and probably not profitable for anybody that's listening to this podcast, but war is profitable. So after a while, they both sides realize we're getting decimated. You don't realize this, and it's sad. It's sad, especially for those of you who don't support the war that's going on in Israel. Okay, and that'll be a podcast for another day. But those of you who don't realize that almost everybody under the age of 30 in Ukraine has been killed, okay, males, and all the females have moved out of the country, and that there's not that many people left over there. So he's conscripting people that are in their 40s. You wonder what JD Vance was talking about when he said you're, conscripting all these people. Next thing you know, they're going to start taking 50-year-olds. So this war cannot go on forever because there's not going to be a population in Ukraine left to be able to sustain the war. And of course, the Russians are losing troops too, but the Russians 4 times the size, their military over the Ukrainian military. So they're just going to have to get more and more, you know, uh, deadly in their battles. So Zelensky comes here. He wants a ceasefire. Putin wants a ceasefire. They're both kind of war weary, but they're both too proud to give in. So they want a mediator to come in and do it. And by the way, it's not going to be it's not going to be the UK who does this. It's not going to be the French. The French don't fight for anything. Okay. And it's not going to be those people who come in. Yeah, they'll put some boots on the ground. And when Trump said, you're risking World War III, that's what he was talking about. The UK getting involved in this conflict militarily, and they don't have the military to back it up. And if they're going to give them weapons, then they're just going to escalate this thing. It's not going to come to a close. So what Zelensky needs to do is Zelensky needs to say, I might have been a little bit harsh in some of the things that I said, and I may have listened to the wrong group of people. I may have listened to some of the Democrats that were telling me to go in there and stick my nose in and get in Trump's face and challenge his authority. And, of course, he didn't expect Vance to stand up and say what he said, and he did. And I think Zelensky, out of everybody in that room, I think he was more shocked than anybody else that, but this is what I was told to do. And it didn't seem to work out too well, did it? So I think there's still hope. I think he's going to come back. I think he's going to reconsider. He's going to say, I really need to deal with the US. I need the protections that the US is going to give us. And by the way, what are those protections? Those protections are not boots on the ground. Those protections are going to be that our American interests are going to go in there into those countries, joint ventures with Ukrainian businesses, and they're going to start mining things and they're going to start rebuilding things. People are talking about the the minerals and things that they can get out of it, and the lithium and the cobalt and all that stuff. But that's just a small portion of where the money is over there. You do realize that most of the cities have been blown to smithereens. Okay, there's nothing left. So somebody's got to go in and rebuild all that. How about American companies come in and partner up with the Ukrainian companies? We'll bring in our heavy equipment, we'll bring in our manpower, and we'll make Ukraine great again. And they'll go back to having the freedoms that they had once. And with American presence on the ground there, American citizens, then the Russian forces are going to be much less likely to want to attack. And because they know, especially in the next 4 years with Trump in office, if you kill an American citizen, you can rest assured that there's going to be some hell to pay for it. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of my opinion on what's going on, my opinion based on reading a lot of articles, listening to a lot of different people from both sides of the aisle, and using what a lot of people are lacking today, and that is common sense. And here's what I told some of my friends, and I'll tell you guys all too. Sometimes things are exactly as they appear. So if that's the way it is with this Ukrainian conflict, that it is exactly the way it appears, then what's going on and what you see in front of you is exactly what's going on and you see in front of you. So I hope this helps, and like and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you on the next time.